Hi, fourth graders. Today for math, our lesson is 10.2, Understand Hundredths. Our learning target is, I can write a fraction or mixed number involving hundredths as a decimal. And if you recall from yesterday, or if you did your math work from yesterday, we were working with the tenths place. Today, we're working with the hundredths place. And if you haven't been keeping up with your daily work, you really need to, especially in math, because what we do the day before helps us with what we're learning the next day. So if you did not do your work from yesterday, you have to do that first before you do today's work. All right, I'm going to move this out of the way. Move it over here, and let's go over some vocabulary words. Okay, a decimal fraction. A decimal fraction is a fraction with a denominator of 10 or 100, just like those examples underneath. 26 100ths, 9 tenths, and 60 100ths. If you have a pencil and paper handy, you might want to take notes. All right, our next vocabulary word is hundredths place. The hundredths place is the second place to the right of the decimal point. For example, if you have 0.01, the hundredth place is here. It's where the arrow is pointing. It is the second place to the right of the decimal point, the hundredths place. And I'm going to have them move these out of the way to make room for the last one. Your last vocabulary word is hundredth. That is one of 100 equal parts of a whole. So here's an example. Here's a model. They have one little square shaded. That's one out of 100. Believe me, there are 100 little squares in that flat. Okay. All right, so let's move these out of the way. Now, just a little review. You know that I need to zoom out. So, if you remember, we talked about how we use this type of place value chart in your previous grades, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and every time we move to the left, the value increases by 10 times. It's 10 times as much bigger. All right, so with our work with decimals, though, we are going to be working with the ones place and possibly the tens, but we need to move to the right on the place value chart. So this is what it looks like. And actually, I'll do that. Ones, and then here I have the decimal point. And I put the word and, that was from yesterday, because when we read decimals, we say and for the decimal point. Usually when we have a number in the ones place. Then tenths, and then hundredths. This is the place value we're going to be working on today. And I put these little arrows because instead of the value increasing 10 times as much, they increase 1/10 as much. All right, let's get into some example problems. Move that out of the way. All right. So the types of problems you are going to see today are problems like this one. So let's say we have 75 100ths. All right. First thing we're going to do is we're going to show what that looks like in the model. And so 75, I could just count by ones all the way to 75, but I know that every column is worth 10. So let me count 7 of those columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to shade all of these. Trying to do it quickly. All of these should be shaded. There's 7 columns of 10, so that's actually 7 tenths. Okay, let me see. There. So that's 70, and then we need to count 5 more, so that's 5 hundredths. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Ooh, very messy. All right. So that is the model of 75 100ths. Now we need to write it in the form of a decimal. So let's write a quick place value chart. Here's the ones place, decimal point, tenths, and then the last column here that we're going to work with is hundredths. Hundredths. Okay, so let's fill in the chart. We don't have any of these squares completely filled out, so there are no ones. bring down the decimal point, tenths. Remember, we counted 7 columns, so that would be 7 tenths, and then 5 of the hundredths. So it would be 0.75. That's how we'd write it as a decimal. And how you would say it is 75 hundredths. Okay, on to the next example. The next one is, let's do 1 point, oops, sorry, we don't want a point, we want to make it a fraction. 1 and 53 100ths. Let's do that. 1 and 53 100ths. So let's first do our model. I'm going to grab a different color marker. All right, so we need 1 whole. We're going to use this to represent 1 whole. This entire square is going to be filled in. It'll be all shaded. Okay. And then we need to shade in 53 out of the 100. Well, I know that, like I said from the other example, that every column is worth 10. And so this is 53, so I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like we have, oops. Let me see if we can do this quickly. That is 50 altogether. And shade them all in. All right, and then we're not done. We need to shade in 3 100ths. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's write it in the form of a decimal. Ones, decimal point, tenths, and then hundredths. Hundredths. Ooh, okay. We do have a whole number, so we have 1 of them. Let's put the decimal point, tenths. Remember how many columns of 10 did I shade in? 5 of them. That's 5 tenths. And then 3 hundredths. So we write 1 and 53 100ths as a decimal like this. I'll put it to the side. 1.53. And how you would read that number? 1 and 53 hundredths. Okay, it's time for us to get into some problems like you will be seeing in your math work today. All right, let's see. I think I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. There you go. All right, now I did these earlier, so let's take a look at it. You're supposed to write the fraction or mixed number as a decimal. 45 100ths, and here's the model, and you would write it as 0.45, and that you could read that as 45 hundredths. Next one, number 2, 1 and 90 100ths, 1 whole piece right here, 90 shaded on this side, 1.90 like that, and you would read it as 1 and 90 100ths. Next, shade them all to represent the fraction or mixed number, then write the fraction or mixed number as decimal. Okay, 98 100ths. Oh, that would mean everything except for 2, right? Because there's a total of 100, so you just leave 2 that are not shaded. Okay. Oh my goodness, my pen. All right. So after we do that, we need to write it in the form of a decimal. So that would be 0 because there are no whole numbers. 0.98. Okay. Number 4, 1 and 34 100ths. Well, this 1 whole square here is going to represent the 1, and then 34. That's 3 columns. 1, 2, 3. And then 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. Okay, and you write it as a decimal this way, 1.34. Write the fraction or mixed number as a decimal. So 42 hundredths is 0.42. Number 6. Oh, problems like this one, I know that a lot of 4th graders get a little confused. Let's go over it. It's 7 100ths. Well, 7, that would mean 7 of the little squares. We don't have enough to fill out a column of 10, so what we have to do is put a 0 in the tenths place, and then 7, 0.07. Number 7, 4 and 56 100ths is 4.56. Number 8, 23 and 9 100ths. It's 23.9. 0.09. Okay. All right, let's see if we can finish up this page. Write the number as a fraction or mixed number and as a decimal. So 2 answers, 61 hundredths. Let's do a fraction, 61 hundredths. And to write that as a decimal, that would be 0.61. Next, 12 and 83 hundredths. 12 and, so there's and 83 hundredths. Oh, I did it the other way. I started with the decimal. And that equals to 12 and 83 over 100. Okay. Number 11, a shelter finds homes for 100 dogs. 5 of the dogs are Doberman Pinschers. What portion of the dogs are Doberman Pinschers? Write your answer as a decimal. So it's 5 out of 100. So that would be 5 out of 100. And that equals, remember, if we were to shade in 5 over 100 in a model like this, you wouldn't have one whole column of 10. So there are no tenths, but you do have 5 of the hundredths. And I guess we should write our dogs like that. Okay, almost done. Number 12, an athlete runs 3 50/100th lengths of a football field. Write this number as a decimal. Okay, so 3 is the whole number. And then we need to represent the fraction 50/100ths as 0.50. Let's see, runs 3 lengths. Let's do that. Okay, 13. Which number of cards show 3 hundredths? 3 hundredths, there's one. That's 3 tenths. That's just 300. This is 3 and it's in the tenths place, so it's 3 tenths. No. Oh, here we go. 3 100ths. And that is it. All right, boys and girls, now it is your turn. Really carefully watch the video. If you need to, go back and re-watch it. It's just like what we did yesterday for tenths, but now we're moving over one more place to the right.